If some people are calling you too cold and some people are calling you too soft and nobody understands you, well, you've made it. That's not a failure, that's a cost of not collapsing into one extreme. Be dangerous, but leave room for the human. Most leadership failures do not come from incompetence. They come from imbalance. Edge without warmth turns leaders into something people survive, not follow. These are the tyrants. Kindness without teeth turns leaders into something people use, take advantage of, and walk over. Real leadership lives in that tension between humanity and consequence. Leadership, in my mind, is the same thing as Stoicism. If you are a Stoic, you are a leader in philosophy, in kindness, in virtue. And even if you're someone who doesn't have a leadership position at work, you're still a leader. Every one of us is a leader. And so, when I'm talking about leadership here, in my mind, it's synonymous with Stoicism. So let's get into that balance, because there is a difficult balance as a Stoic, as a leader, between being someone who is kind and warm versus being someone who is courageous, strong, someone who has edge, who has teeth. To revisit that quote from the beginning, be dangerous, but leave room for the human. So let's talk about first how you can go astray by having too much of an edge, being someone who's too serious, too on point, too disciplinary. Edge looks effective at first. When someone walks in the room and they are decisive, and they set standards, and they have standards, and they don't have any patience for excuses, they have clear lines, it's effective at first. You think, oh my God, this person has their shit together. They're really good at what they do. They decide things. They have standards. They're holding people accountable. This is awesome. However, if you do that over time, and you don't add warmth to the equation, that human factor, you're going to essentially end up with people who comply. They do what you tell them, but they're always afraid of losing their jobs. They're always afraid of losing their relationship with you. And eventually they stop telling you the truth. Bad news travels slowly and risks surface too late. And so really, for you to be an effective leader, you don't want to have all edge, because you're not going to get the truth like you want. Engagement with your team, with your family, with your friends, also collapses into compliance. People become people who are basically doing the minimum to stay out of trouble. Any initiative, any ownership disappears because you're a hard ass, essentially, right? Isolation in this environment becomes the norm. You're watched, you're not trusted, you're not considered to be a trustworthy person. And leadership turns lonely. Not because it must. You don't have to be a lonely leader, a lonely Stoic. But if you have too much edge, too much teeth, you will become lonely. Of course you will, because everyone's going to isolate themselves from you. You're basically going to be a parent, disciplining your children. So edge, teeth, dangerousness, for lack of a better word, it can control behavior, but it can't build commitment. So that's if you're someone who's too disciplinary, too hard, too intense, let's say. Now, what about the other end of the spectrum? What about someone who is kind but doesn't have any teeth. Well, these people get exploited. These people essentially get taken advantage of by their team. This is where a lot of decent leaders fail. You care, you're empathetic, you're compassionate, you understand context, you give people the benefit of the doubt, and slowly, quietly, standards erode. Now what happens after this is lines blur, deadlines become flexible because, hey, nothing's going to happen, right? I mean, the boss, he's just so easy. He's just so easy to deal with, so don't even worry about it. We don't need to get it done in time. Expectations, the ones that you set as a leader, they start to become optional. Grace, accepting people for their failures, it starts to turn into entitlement. Entitlement is when people feel like they deserve all of the things, all the benefits that they're getting, and more. When what started as maybe generosity and kindness becomes assumed. It's like, oh no, well, my boss understands my delay in getting this report done in time because of my personal situation. Therefore, you know what? He doesn't really take this very seriously. And what happens, and you can't help but for this to happen because you're a human being, resentment grows inside of you. You feel like your team's taking advantage of you. And that resentment leaks into passive, sharp, unfair feelings and sometimes actions towards your team. So here's the truth, the very uncomfortable truth. If nothing happens when standards are violated, there are no standards. There has to be consequences to actions, poor actions. And you know this as a Stoic, as someone who's trying to be better yourself. You have to hold yourself to a standard. And if you don't, there is no standard. Kindness without teeth isn't kindness per se. It's conflict avoidance dressed up as virtue. But what does edge actually mean? We have some idea of what it means. It's not aggression. It's not volume. It's not cruelty. Edge is clarity backed by consequence. It means you as a leader, as a Stoic, you're willing to disappoint people. You're willing to hold the standard. You enforce lines even when it costs you likability. You don't care so much about that people like you. That's not the priority. The priority is that you set standards and that you have clarity on what you expect. You don't negotiate core standards. This is what we need to do. You don't explain yourself into weakness. Edge is presence. It's not posture. People don't need you to be people don't need you to be harsh. So I'm not saying that you should be harsh, but they do need to know where that line is and what's real. And that line exists, and that if they cross it, there's going to be consequences. But in sum, edge means you are willing to disappoint people. You are willing to uphold your standards, your own character standards, and that of your team and the people around you. And guess what? Yeah, that's going to disappoint people, and it's going to a lot of times make them not like you very much. But that's not your goal as a Stoic, as a leader, to be liked. Hey there. Let me thank you for being a listener to this ad-free podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, there are a few things you can do to help me out. A 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this really does help, and it's free. You can also sign up for my Substack newsletter or Patreon. Substack free gets each episode emailed to you along with the transcripts in the form of an article. You'll also get access to my live talks, followed by a Q&A afterward. Substack Premium supporters and my patrons on Patreon get access to the recordings and a brief article of those Q&A sessions, access to full episodes of the Paradoxically Speaking podcast, my Steps to Success interview series, Stoic meditations, and much more. Links to Substack and Patreon can be found in the show notes. Now, what are teeth? Edge and teeth. Well, teeth don't mean that you punish people all the time. Teeth don't mean that you bite into people. Teeth simply mean that consequences are known in advance. Follow-through is consistent. Enforcement is calm, not emotional. You don't get angry. You don't scream. Accountability happens even when it's uncomfortable. You're not baring your teeth constantly. That's too far. That's too far as a leader. You're being too harsh. But people behave differently when they know they exist. People have to know that you have teeth. And if they don't, well, they're going to take advantage of you. This is the world we live in. We're not all wonderful, loving people that never take advantage of each other. I wish that were true, but it is not. Let's have another look at this word kindness. Let's have another look at this word kindness, because I've used that several times so far. Kindness isn't softness. It's not letting things slide. Real kindness means listening and understanding what your team are saying before you decide what's going on or what you want to do. It means correcting privately whenever possible. So if you're in a meeting and one of your team members gets out of line, maybe you pull them aside at the end and tell them, as opposed to publicly embarrassing them. It means explaining why the standards matter. You have to protect people's dignity. That's where that kindness piece comes in, while at the same time enforcing consequences. People need to feel like they have dignity. Kindness preserves the human, that human element we talked about. Teeth, however, preserve the structure. You need both. You need kindness and you need teeth. And if you don't have one of these, they'll destroy it. Too much kindness destroys your teeth. Too much teeth destroys your kindness. That's the balance we're talking about. So, that balance. Teeth behind the smile. The leader people trust holds two truths at once. They tell you, and you know, that they care about you. They care about you. At the same time, that they will not lower their standards for you. That balance creates something rare. It's psychological safety without moral drift. One of the things that you learn very quick, if you have any empathy whatsoever as a leader, is that people need to feel safe. People need to feel like their job isn't at jeopardy all the time. People need to feel like they're not going to get fired in the next minute. Because when people feel like that, they focus on getting fired as opposed to what they should be focused on, which is doing their job well. However, people also need to know that if you do something that crosses the line, there are going to be consequences. And so the safety comes with conditions, as it does in any social contract. All of your friends, your friendships, your spouse, your partner, your children, it's all a contract in some sense. It's all conditional. It's, I care about you, but there are some standards for us, and we have to respect each other's standards. So, people feel like people need to feel rather, like they need to speak honestly, and they are safe to do so, right? They're willing to speak honestly, and they feel safe to do so. They need to have full clarity on expectations, and they need confidence that fairness exists, because let me tell you, nothing makes people more bitter than an unfair system. And I got news for you, friend. Life is not inherently fair. Life will throw you to the wolves. Throw you to people who only have teeth and no kindness. And so the only fairness, the only justice in the Stoic sense that we are able to achieve in this world is the ones that we create ourselves. Not that we're going to be vigilantes punishing people, but that we become leaders in whatever capacity that we can be to create fair systems and to uphold fairness. This is where trust is actually forged. It's not in softness. It's not in being too severe. It's in consistency. I care about you, and I will not lower the standard for you. Now, what's the cost of getting this right? Well, as you see, leaders who are kind and have teeth. So even the people, even the leaders amongst us that are perfect, they strike that balance perfectly. This is going to be the cost of that. And before I get into this, let me be clear on what I'm saying. I'm telling you that even if you follow the advice I'm giving you, even if you can strike that perfect balance and you can be the stoic leader, these are still the costs of that. Number one, people are still going to call you cold. People are still going to refer to you as someone who only has teeth. Number two, others are going to call you soft. Some people are going to say, he's too kind. He lets people walk all over him or her. And number three, very few people are actually going to understand that tension that you're holding. Very few people. In some, you're never going to be universally liked. You are going to be misunderstood all of the time, consistently, constantly, day in, day out. And some people will understand you, but those people are few and far in between. Those people are rare, very rare. So if that's the case for you as a leader, if some people are calling you too cold and some people are calling you too soft and nobody understands you, well, you've made it. That's not a failure. That's a cost of not collapsing into one extreme. So let's have a look at a simple litmus test here. Ask yourself these questions as a leader. And again, I want to reiterate this because we're wrapping this up. All of this stuff applies to Stoicism. It's, as a Stoic, you are a leader. So ask yourself these questions. Do people bring me bad news early? If not, they probably don't trust you. You might have too much teeth. If they tell you every little bad thing that goes on, well, you have to look at that too. Do people know exactly where the line is? Do people know the line that they cannot cross? Do your friends know there's some things you can't do? Some of these are obvious. You know, your friends aren't allowed to, beat your children or something like that. You know, there's obvious lines. And then there's gray lines that you have to work out between yourselves. But do they know where that line is? Have you enforced consequences recently? When's the last time you had to enforce some consequences? Have a look at that. And on the flip side, have you shown that you really care recently? Have you shown that you actually do care about people? If you answer no to either of those questions, you're at a balance. You're at a balance, and you need to reflect on that. Closing reflection here. Again, every Stoic is a leader. Every person is a leader if you choose to be, no matter what position you're in. You can lead up the chain, you can lead down the chain, you can lead in your family, you can lead as an adult, as a child, as a teenager, as a laborer. You can lead. You can be a leader. You are a leader. The question is whether or not you're a balanced and good leader. And so just have a little bit of faith in that anyone can be kind. Anyone can be kind. Every single person on this planet has the capacity for kindness. Likewise, anyone can have edge. Every single person on this planet can have edge, can have strength, can have teeth. Very few people can hold that edge with restraint and kindness with teeth, day after day under pressure. That's why it's not taught. That's why it's rare. It's really, really rare to have a great leader. There's a lot of decent leaders. There's a lot of good leaders. It's really rare to have a great leader. But that's why it matters. That's why it matters for you to have this balance. Be kind enough to protect the human within yourself and the human within others, but have enough edge, have enough teeth to protect the standard.